Engines roared above the Tribunal spire as the Chalari vessel Obsequium pierced orbit. I watched from the gallery, arms folded, heart unreadable. The same species that once funded council purges now begged to be heard under Earth's new doctrine. The stars remembered their crimes. But could justice allow memory without vengeance? They arrived not in strength, but surrender. Power cores cold, weapon nodes disarmed. A single envoy walked under armed escort. His name, Jex Halloran, former Speaker of Sector 9. Eyes haunted by deeds no tribunal could forget. He knelt before the dais, not as a diplomat, but as a penitent. I, Admiral Taylor Rain, presided over the first trial of the new accord. Around me sat judges from species once hunted. The air was thick with silence, with ancient pain. Jex's voice broke it. I come not to escape judgment, but to understand it. Begin your questions. I carry no shield. The projection began. Archive footage from Urix Prime. Civilian shelters are collapsing under drone fire. Kalari sigils are bright on every casing. Jex did not flinch. The cries echoed through the chamber like ghosts clawing at walls. I watched the Alari judge tremble. Her people had died under that sky. Why fund annihilation? Asked the Arquin delegate. For what gain? Jex answered, voice low. Because the council demanded silence, and we feared irrelevance. He paused, lifting his eyes to meet mine. We paid in credits to avoid paying in blood. We were cowards, masquerading as strategists. I marked the room's tension, each face a war memorial. Redemption had no script. Justice required risk. You admit guilt, I said, but will you confess debt? He nodded. Our treasury awaits the verdict, but currency cannot rebuild what we erased. The silence afterward wasn't judgment. It was a surprise. He meant it. Witness 14. Mental of Eridum. A refugee, once just a child. She was 7, he began, voice shaking. Her name was Laris. A Chalari drone split the hall where we hid. I lost her fingers trying to pull her free. He held up his mechanical hand. This reminds her. Jex Halloran bowed his head. What was her favorite sound? The witness blinked. Wind chimes. Old wind chimes on the orbital farms. The courtroom held its breath. Jex unclasped a small sphere from his belt and activated it. Wind chime notes filled the chamber. I don't expect forgiveness, he said, only that you know I mourn. Some wept, others seethed. Mental stood frozen. Why would you carry this? Jex replied softly. Because the council burned memories. I chose to carry one. The tribunal's silence grew heavier. For the first time, the idea of Chalari's sorrow began to feel real. That night, I toured the Obsequium alone. No escort, no shields. The Chalari guards allowed it, perhaps a gesture of good faith. What I found was not military precision, but relics of self-punishment. Hallways dark, crew quarters converted into shrines, hundreds of names etched into bulkhead steel. In the ship's old engine room, I met Tovin Sare, the Obsequium's engineer. Do they know? I asked. He stared into the fusion core. That the power we built funded massacres? Yes. Every Chalari aboard chose exile before this mission. We will not return home. This vessel is both coffin and confession. He handed me a data core. Logs, orders, secrets never sent. Let your tribunal see all. We have no secrets left. The gesture wasn't calculated. It was a surrender. Genuine, exhausted, and deeply necessary. I clutched it like a weapon, but maybe it was a bridge. Jex stood before the tribunal again. We request no sanctuary, only trial. If condemned, we will submit to orbital dismantling. Murmurs erupted. Species once subjugated didn't know how to process this. A former predator disarming itself. Justice had always meant retribution, not transformation. I leaned forward. Tell me the last order you gave under the council." His voice cracked. I signed off on the sterilization of Subsector Varn. I did not read the full report. I trusted the data. I trusted the system. It is my name on the genocide, and I offer it to your judgment. A Nari judge stood slowly. We do not know how to forgive, but perhaps we can begin by listening. That was the crack in the wall. Not a pardon, not absolution, but a moment where justice became something living. A tribunal not of wrath, but of reckoning. We deployed a probe to Varn's surface. What we found was silence layered in ash. No cities, no life, just carbon shadows against obsidian stone. The Chalari had erased not just bodies, but culture, architecture, and memory. We broadcast live feeds into the tribunal chamber. Several delegates stood, some left, one vomited. Jax Halloran stared at the feed like a man visiting his own grave. "I approved it," he whispered, "but I never knew it." A Cathari diplomat hissed, "You chose not to know." Jax didn't argue. "Yes." He stepped closer to the holoscreen, fingers outstretched. "And now, it burns through me." I saw then that remorse wasn't his weapon. It was his penance. But remorse alone couldn't rebuild Varn. I asked, "What would justice look like? To you?" He answered without pause. "The right to rebuild what we helped destroy, with hands, not orders. Not reparations. Restoration." The second day felt different. The gallery filled with whispers, tension thick as hull plating. The Chalari hadn't come to defend themselves. They came to change. Some still called it theater, but others, like the Skarn speaker, whispered, "Maybe this is what truth looks like." A young human judge, Commander Varen Hale, turned to me during recess. "This is dangerous," he said. "If we allow redemption, what stops others from claiming regret as a strategy?" I answered with steel. Because regret that asks to serve, not evade, holds weight, and Earth built this tribunal for truth, not performance. The next witness was unexpected. A survivor saved by a Kalari medical skiff during the Council's final collapse. "They could have left me. They didn't," she said. "Not all monsters stay monsters." Her words stirred unease. Could this tribunal deliver a new kind of verdict, one that judged transformation? A transmission cut through encrypted channels. An old council general, thought dead, broadcast a message. The tribunal is Earth's illusion. Forgiveness is betrayal. Kalari are not allies. They are leveraging. It played on every comm line in the quadrant. Deliberate. Calculated. Designed to fracture what was beginning to heal. Tension reignited like plasma fuel. Delegates once open now shut down. The Chalari vessel was placed under guard. I received private messages urging caution, warnings masked as diplomacy. Even within Earth's ranks, doubt had crept in. The general's words had opened old wounds. I summoned Jax Halloran privately. "Do you still want this trial?" He answered, "Especially now, because if I run, I become what they expect." That night, the stars didn't look peaceful. They looked like a jury, cold, watching, waiting. The Chalari crew gathered before the tribunal platform, 64 in total. Jex spoke for them. "We formally reject planetary amnesty. If the tribunal deems us unworthy, we will remain in orbit and dismantle the obsequium, piece by piece with our own hands. That is the price we offer. No return, no plea bargain." One by one, each crew member placed a personal token, a sigil, a data crystal, a fragment of past life at the dais. This wasn't a negotiation. This was ritual. I'd seen surrender. This was something deeper, a declaration that memory could become purpose. The Varnian survivor approached Jex. "If I forgive you, will you rebuild my village?" His voice trembled. "Yes, stone by stone, word by word, if you show me how." The tribunal had no precedent for this, but perhaps this was the precedent. The judges convened in silence. Not one verdict, but 3 paths: total exoneration, dismantlement, or conditional absolution through labor and restoration. I watched the vote light up, glyph by glyph. The chamber was breathless. So was I. Conditional absolution, approved by the majority. The Chilari would live, not as free beings but as caretakers of the worlds they'd helped scar. Jex bowed. No celebration, only breath released. "We thank you," he said, "and we accept the burden." The tribunal doors opened, not to applause, but to quiet, a peace not born from justice, but from choice. I stepped into the gallery. Galaxies hung outside, wide and uncertain. This was only the beginning. A tribunal was not an ending. It was a mirror, and today it reflected a truth I never expected to see justice could rebuild. The Chilari disembarked, each wearing an encoded band, tracking not just their location, but their vow: 10 years of restorative labor under the tribunal's oversight. They carried no weapons, only tools. Worn hands, sunken eyes. Not soldiers anymore. Builders. Or, at least, they hoped to become them. One carried a child's drawing, laminated and creased. "She gave this to me before her home burned," he whispered. "Now I build in her name." I wondered if this guilt was enough. But maybe guilt wasn't the seed. Maybe will was. A Korthan child approached Jex. "Will you plant trees?" He knelt. "Yes, as many as you'll teach me." In that moment, something shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but curiosity, the kind that builds bridges from ashes. I watched from above. This tribunal wasn't a court anymore. It was a forge, their first assignment, the ruins of Varn. Jex and his crew landed amid charred earth and skeletal towers. No atmosphere shelters, no AI assistance. The tribunal wanted truth in labor, pain felt with bare hands. I monitored from orbit. Surveillance drones showed each act, digging, rebuilding, and praying beside fallen stone. Jex found an untouched console buried beneath black glass. "Do you know what this is?" he asked Tovin. "A school registry," the engineer said. "Names we tried to erase," Jex whispered each aloud. "Let them echo." The crew paused. Silence fell. One began carving them into the wall. Elsewhere, a native survivor spat at Jex's boots. "You think building a well redeems blood?" He didn't flinch. "No, but thirst still exists." That night, they shared firelight with the village's elders. No stories exchanged, just presence. And that was a beginning. Back on Hightower Station, the tribunal splintered. Some accused Earth of moral theater, of leveraging guilt for power. The Varn delegation, though spared, filed a motion to pause Chilari integration. "Emotion cannot replace judgment," they argued. "They should rebuild, but not walk freely." Inside the chambers, allies turned uncertain. The Alari envoy confronted me. "Is this justice, or a new empire cloaked in empathy?" I replied coldly, "If it were an empire, they'd already be gone." The Cathari shook his head. "You believe too easily in change." I answered, "No, I believe in consequences, but not only one kind." The motion passed narrowly. Kalari labor would continue, but their access to transit lanes would remain restricted. Freedom delayed. Tension returned. Forgiveness, it seemed, had a half-life. News struck hard. The Obsequium's sister ship, once thought lost, emerged in the Aureli's belt and opened fire on a refugee convoy. Survivors claimed its crew flew the old Chilari sigil, not the tribunals. Within hours, 3 colonies called for Jex's execution as a precaution. I met him alone under the rebuilt Varnian arch. "Your people did this," I said. His jaw tightened. "They are not my people." I stared. "Convince the galaxy of that." He turned to his engineer. Recall every loyal Chalari ship. If they refuse the Tribunal Code, they face exile. Or worse. Tovin answered. We'll return their fire with silence first, but if that fails... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Redemption now demanded opposition against those who wore their past like armor. The tribunal reconvened for emergency debate. I stood before them, voice steady. Jex Halloran does not lead a species. He makes a choice. That distinction matters. The Aureli's attack blurred justice's edge. Some called for universal punishment. Others demanded patience. The chamber teetered. Then Jex himself entered. "Put me on trial again," he said. "Not for what I did, but for what I might fail to stop." It was madness. It was also courage. And it worked. The tribunal granted him 1 cycle to secure the splintered Chalari fleet. 1 cycle, 1 chance. And if he failed, justice would become fire again. Engines roared again, not for war, but for pursuit. Jex and a hand-picked crew departed aboard Remittance, a retrofitted Chalari interceptor. No weapons, just speed, comms arrays, and the tribunal's clock counting down. 1 cycle, 1 mission. Reach the rogue vessel. Prevent another Varn. I briefed the tribunal in his absence. "He's not chasing allies," I said. "He's hunting ghosts in his uniform." Skepticism buzzed through the chamber. "He's still one of them," muttered the Varn delegate. "Then let's see what kind of them he becomes," I replied. From orbit, I tracked Remittance through the belt's turbulence. Radiation flares, pirate echoes, silence deeper than the vacuum. "No response from the rogue ship," comms reported. Just a signal, repeating every 13 seconds. "Order lives. Regret dies." That was council code. A threat. A doctrine. Jex's crew intercepted a fragmentary message, encrypted Old Chalari dialect. Tovin translated. They believe the tribunal is a lie, that Earth rewrites history by making traitors out of soldiers. Jex narrowed his eyes. They think remorse is surrender, and they call that strength. He opened a secure channel. "This is Halloran. Your code is ancient. Your fear is worse. Stand down or answer to a tribunal not of war, but of memory. I will not let you carry our sins forward." Static. Then a voice. "You died when you knelt. Chalari fight. You crawl." The rogue ship launched flares, decoys, and defiance. It did not stand down. It accelerated toward a colony moon. Jex whispered to his pilot, "Intercept vector. Match course." Tovin whispered back, "We're outgunned." Jex replied, "Then we match conviction, not weapons." The tribunal watched, breathless. At the colony moon, Vare, the rogue Chalari vessel broadcast false tribunal codes, demanding refuge, access, and control. Vare's defenses hesitated. The colony's governor hailed me. "Who do I believe?" I answered without pause. "The ones who arrived with empty hands, not full guns." Seconds later, Remittance broke from sublight, battered from belt debris. They powered up proximity scramblers, non-lethal disarms. Jex hailed the rogue ship directly. "This is the last warning. You wear a dead flag. Stand down, or I tear it from you myself." The rogue captain responded, "Tribunals are for the weak." Their forward cannon charged. Vare began evac protocols. Jex stared at the countdown. "Tovin," he said, "aim for their ventral relay. Non-lethal, but end it." A single pulse, 1 perfect hit. The rogue ship faltered. Systems offline. No casualties, no glory, just a choice. Boarding teams crossed into the disabled vessel. Inside, 38 Chalari officers bound by ideology and oath. They refused tribunal rights. "We are not criminals," one growled. "We are continuity." Jex stepped forward. "No, you are inertia, and I am what comes after." They demanded a council trial. I denied it from orbit. "The council is dead. Its laws are buried with its crimes. You now stand before something harder, truth. One prisoner spat, "You can't make us believe in your redemption." Jex responded, "I don't need your belief, just your surrender." And with time, they did. Not from fear, from fatigue. The war was gone, but some still hadn't noticed. Back at Ver, the Tribunal declared it a just action. No executions. The rogue ship would be decommissioned and rebuilt as a Tribunal classroom. Jex Halloran returned to the Tribunal chamber not as a fugitive, but as a peacebringer. His clothes were torn. His voice was hoarse. But his eyes, they no longer carried just regret. They held resolve. "The ones who will not change," he said, "do not deserve to lead our story." Some delegates clapped, others remained stone. I watched it unfold, not as a military victory but a philosophical one. The Chalari had divided, not by blood, but by future. The Tribunal gave Jex a choice: return to Varn and continue rebuilding or remain and serve as a permanent Tribunal advisor on post-conflict justice. He bowed. "If you permit, I choose both." That evening, we walked the gallery together. "You think they'll accept me someday?" he asked. I replied, "They already have. They just don't know it yet." A new case landed on the Tribunal docket. Not war crimes, but negligence. A human cargo corporation abandoned alien workers during a solar storm on Erix 9. 36 lives lost. I felt the air shift. Earth, too, was not immune. Justice must touch all, especially us. The Chalari sat silent during hearings, but I saw something strange in Jex: recognition. "We thought only the Council was corrupted," he said, "but power, anywhere, rots from comfort." The Tribunal's debate turned ugly. The corporation claimed logistical error, not intent. But on Erix 9, grief wasn't interested in intent. Jex asked to speak. If the Tribunal only punishes those it already hates, it becomes theater. This moment will prove what kind of justice we've built. Some looked at me. I nodded. Let Earth face the mirror it made. Evidence surfaced, recorded calls from Earth's corporate logistics. "Let them wait," said one manager. "Not our problem if their atmosphere suit malfunctions." That word, "let," was a verdict. The Tribunal chamber darkened. The same tone we'd judged in the Council echoed from our people. Jex stood beside me. This is the voice of indifference. It's how it always starts. I watched him closely. There was no triumph in him, only solidarity. Justice wasn't his tool. It was his cause now. Commander Varen Hale of Earth offered a defense. It was one division, not Earth's will. I replied, "Justice does not need intent. It needs integrity." The Tribunal ruled unanimously. Reparations, disbandment, and permanent Tribunal oversight on all human off-world labor contracts. Earth did not protest. That mattered. That week, the Tribunal received a formal petition from 4 minor worlds. "We seek local micro-tribunals," it read, "advised by but not governed from Hightower." I called it progress. Some called it decentralization into chaos. But Jex smiled. "Justice wants to root in many soils." The petitioners presented ancient methods: mediation circles, memory stones, witness oaths tied to weather cycles, alien customs, old truths. The Tribunal asked, "Can tradition align with universal law?" I responded, "If law can't hear tradition, it isn't just, it's colonial." That won applause from unexpected places. We granted the request. Each local tribunal would share findings, rulings, but not answers dictated from above. The Chalari, once symbols of compliance and hierarchy, now championed distributed justice. Somewhere, the old council was rolling in its grave. A ceremony was held on Varn, dedicating the rebuilt village square. No fireworks, no speeches, just names etched into living stone, voice activated, reciting stories when touched. One survivor placed their hand on a panel, and a child's voice played, "I liked blue moons." Jex stood back, refusing the podium. This was theirs, not mine. Still, the elder pulled him forward. "Say your piece," she said. He paused, then whispered, "We cannot erase what we were, but we can decide what comes next. Today is not forgiveness. It's a doorframe. I'll keep walking through." I stood behind them, listening. Behind me, delegates of 12 species wept. Not from pity, but from recognition. Grief could be shared, not claimed. I returned to the great hall that evening. Empty now. Quiet. Just banners swaying in atmospheric flow. I touched the tribunal seal. Once cold and polished, now dulled by fingerprints. So many hands, so many histories. Jex approached with a datapad. 3 more petitions, 2 requests for war crime reviews, 1 joint trial proposed by rival species. I raised an eyebrow. Joint? He smiled. They want to accuse each other, together. We laughed quietly. It wasn't absurd. It was hope. Justice wasn't a statue anymore. It was a river, carving through stone, sometimes messy, always moving. I looked to the stars. "You think this will hold?" he answered, "only if we never stop asking who it's really for." The tribunal lights dimmed, but the work did not end. A transmission burst through our protected relay net. Origin unknown, source encrypted with ancient council keys. It wasn't a threat. It was a broadcast. A courtroom, a mock tribunal. Holograms of Jex and I stood trial, accused of weakening the galaxy with empathy over order. The speaker, a former council adjutant presumed dead, now leads something new. The continuance. The fringe worlds began buzzing. "They offer clarity," said one Corthan governor. "A return to structure." Jex paced beside me. "They learned nothing. They want the past painted gold." I answered, "Then we'll show them what justice is." Within hours, the continuance declared, "Join or stand trial under our terms." Justice was now weaponized. The continuance launched 3 precision strikes only against local tribunals. No civilian centers, no military fleets, just justice hubs. It was surgical, symbolic, devastating. On Gentara 4, 12 tribunal mediators were executed live. Their verdicts burned. Their cases were erased. The message, the galaxy doesn't need courts, it needs a command. I assembled a tribunal emergency council. No uniforms, no rank, just lawkeepers from dozens of worlds. "They're not attacking power," I said. "They're attacking the process, our right to decide together." Jex clenched his fist. "Then we fight back, not with fleets, with truths." Earth deployed its covert info teams. The Chalari offered data mappers. Together, we'd win not by fire, but by exposure. Survivors from the destroyed tribunals gathered. But instead of rage, they brought proposals. A trial in absentia, to charge the continuance leadership before the galaxy. "Make their crimes visible," they urged. "Don't chase ghosts. Name them." It was radical. Some called it madness. "How do you try someone who won't appear?" Varenhale asked. "With evidence," Jex answered, "and witnesses who escaped the council before it fell." We gathered fragments, declassified documents, secret meetings, black site orders. A name emerged, Alvin Croy, former strategist of civil sphere operations, a man who erased cities with legalese. The trial date was set. 1 cycle from now, not for vengeance, but for memory. On Varn, survivors planted a native tree species genetically encoded to grow with stored stories in its bark. The tribunal called it the witness tree. Anyone could visit, touch, listen. One child asked Jex, "Will it ever forgive?" He knelt beside her. "No, but it'll always remember, and that's stronger." Tovin stood nearby, holding a new datapad. 3 continuance cells exposed by leaked testimony. They're watching us. I nodded. Let them. This wasn't a military front. It was a narrative war, and we were winning with scars instead of sabers. That night, the stars above Varn pulsed like open eyes, watching, waiting. The trial began, with Croy absent, his seat a hollow projection. Evidence displayed. Testimony flowed from species long silent. On every channel, across every world, the tribunal broadcast its truth. The law binds not the body, but the record. Croy's voice, captured from a dead admiral's comms, played, "History is for the victors." I spoke over it. "No, memory is for the survivors." Jex added, "And we now have the pen." The verdict, guilty, life sentence in absentia. No death, no spectacle, just a warrant, active, permanent, broadcast forever. A reminder, justice now had a legacy, even if its enemies wore shadows. In the Tribunal Library, a vast orbital vault known as the Archive Spire, thousands of worlds had sent testimony, relics, and court records, but one volume arrived without a sender, unmarked, unencrypted, titled only The Book of Dust. Its pages held names, so many names, some familiar, former council judges, corporate architects, and hidden agents, others unknown. At the end, a note, "These are not the dead, these are the protected." Jex ran the data through a Chilari legacy filter. It cracked open like a scar. "They're alive," he whispered, "all in exile, sheltered, and one is Croy's daughter." Taylor narrowed her eyes. "Then someone's protecting his bloodline, for a reason." This wasn't over. The tribunal had buried the fire, but the embers moved underground. We found her on Tevos 3, Kale Croy, registered as a bioethics scholar, completely off-grid. Jex volunteered to approach alone. "Let her see we're not a firing squad." I authorized it, but under surveillance, just in case. She met him outside a Sky Farm dome. No fear in her. Just wait. "I know who you are," she said. "I've studied the tribunal from afar. You made my father visible." Jex asked, "Do you support him?" Her answer chilled us. "I support what he feared, that your system will one day erase its rot." Then she handed Jex a crystal. This is what he never wanted to be seen. Inside, redacted court orders, tribunal reversals, secret pardons. Earth, Kalari, Ilari. We all had ghosts. The documents leaked. The galactic net erupted. A dozen decisions made in secret, under pressure. War criminals given mercy to protect fragile peace. No deaths, but compromises. Quiet ones. Tribunal legitimacy wavered. "Is this what justice looks like?" the Nari delegate shouted. "Silence and shame?" Others turned on Earth, on me. "You protected your own." I stood at the dais. "Yes," I said, "and I regret it," gasps echoed. "I stood for unity and feared collapse. That was cowardice. But justice cannot be allergic to truth. So here it is. The tribunal nearly broke. A vote was called. Dissolve Earth's tribunal chairmanship. The majority passed. We lost control, but maybe not our cause. I stepped down from my chair. Jex met me outside the chamber quietly. "They needed it," I said. He nodded. "So did you." Tovin approached with new intel, another continuance base, built inside an old tribunal supply node. I blinked. "They're using our infrastructure." Jex frowned. "That's not defiance, that's inheritance. We ordered the base infiltrated, not destroyed. I joined the covert team. No medals now, just a purpose." Inside, we found a room of children, taught tribunal laws, twisted, used to justify control. One child asked me, "Are you the one who judged my uncle?" I nodded. "And one day, you'll judge me." He didn't blink. "I already have." A new chair was elected, an Ilari elder known for balance, but they asked me to stay as an envoy. Not to lead, but to speak. I accepted. Jex remained Tribunal advisor. Tovin joined the Ethics Review Council. The Tribunal had scars now, on paper, in orbit, in memory, but it still stood. At the closing session of the cycle, I delivered my last official words. Justice is not light. It is not purity. It is not peace. It is work, and work changes us. Outside, a new world signed the accord. Inside, the gavel fell. Not an end, a recalibration. On the mining world of Gralix, local tribunal members were found dead, poisoned at their peace summit. Graffiti left behind. Justice is subjugation. The continuance denied involvement. But surveillance showed tribunal badges worn by the attackers, false flags, internal betrayal. The tribunal's unity began to fracture. Delegates demanded stronger enforcement. Earth warns caution. Push too hard, I said, and we become what we replaced. Jex proposed a radical shift. Allow tribunal security to be elected locally, chosen by the populations they serve. A living system. One alien leader sneered, "You'd let farmers pick their judges?" Jex didn't blink. They already pick their revolutionaries. The Chalari homeworld, long silent, now signaled its intent to rejoin galactic politics through the Tribunal only, not via the old power blocks. That shook every chamber. Half the galaxy viewed it as progress. The other half saw a threat. "You've given them a pulpit," said the Varnian delegate. "One war, one apology, and now they legislate us." But Jex surprised them. "We reject any special status. We request only labor jurisdiction, to rebuild what we destroyed, under supervision." The request was granted, but barely. I watched as old enemies voted side by side, not in friendship, but recognition. The tribunal was no longer a system. It was a mirror, and not everyone liked their reflection. On Tevos 3, Kale Croy began a new project. Memory seeds, bioorganic pods that store testimony, guilt, and hope in living matter. You plant them, and they grow into trees that whisper truths. The first tree held her father's war orders and her renunciation of them. "We can't undo him," she said, "but we can contain him." The tribunal adopted her design. Soon, settlements across fractured worlds requested them. Instead of monuments, we grew confessions. Instead of statues, we planted testimony. Jex visited each planting site. He whispered names into the soil like a prayer. Tovin said, "We're building a forest out of our mistakes." And I replied, "Then may it never stop growing." A continuance fleet, silent for months, lit up every long-range sensor. Dozens of warships. Not striking, not invading, just broadcasting. Their message: "The tribunal is an illusion. Your laws only apply to those who obey. We are the reality you refuse to name." But they didn't attack. They surrounded a disputed moon, neutral ground claimed by 6 species. Waiting, watching. Tensions cracked. Tribunal judges met in emergency session. "What if this is a bluff?" someone asked. "Or a test," I said, "not of force, but of reaction." Jex proposed a tribunal escort, armed but non-aggressive. "If they fire," he said, "they declare themselves. If they don't, we define the field." We launched, quiet, focused, and not alone. The standoff lasted 6 days. Ships hovered, weapons powered, but not fired. On the 7th day, the continuance sent a final message. "We are not the old council. We are what comes after your tribunal collapses." Jex responded on open channel. "We've already collapsed. That's how we began." They blinked first. The fleet retreated. Not defeated, but delayed. The moon remained untouched. No blood, no gavel, just patience, and the will to not become monsters, even when cornered. As we returned to Hightower Station, I recorded my journal. The galaxy doesn't need another empire. It needs endurance. We held. But deep down, we all knew The next trial would not wait for permission. One morning, the tribunal vaults didn't open. No digital access, no internal reports, no staff responses. We sent a team. They found it empty. No signs of violence. Just missing. All backup servers were wiped. Entire archives, war crime logs, rulings, signed treaties, erased as if they never existed. No physical breach, no AI failure, just absence. Jax stared at the blank core. This wasn't sabotage. This was surgical memory theft. Tovin nodded. They didn't want to destroy history. They want to rewrite it. Only one organization had the tech and motive, the Continuance. I whispered what we all thought. They're going to put their version back in. Exactly 3 days later, the Continuance broadcast a full simulation. Tribunal Prime reconstructed. A synthetic replica. Rewritten verdicts. New precedents. Trial footage edited. In their version, the Council had never fallen, only restructured. Kalari crimes, minimized. Earth's interference, labeled unlawful. Jax's confession, gone. Species began choosing sides. 2 smaller federations recognized the synthetic tribunal. It brings clarity, they said. Less compromise, more control. We had a choice. Fight disinformation with weapons or with something stronger. We need one trial, I said. Unforgivable, irrefutable. One truth that no rewrite can erase. Jax nodded. Then bring them someone they can't absolve. He'd vanished after his sentence in absentia. We had never captured him. Until now. Alvan Croy was found hiding inside an asteroid archive, kept by rogue AI loyal to the old council. Emaciated, bitter, still sharp. He smiled when we entered. So, justice comes with hollow hands. I replied, no, it comes with memory. Croy agreed to speak, but only live, only uncensored. Let me burn your tribunal in truth, he said. Jax answered, then burn. But understand, this time we're not erasing it. A trial was set. No edits, no walls. Billions would watch. No matter the outcome, this time the galaxy would remember. The hall overflowed. Not with diplomats, but with survivors. Each one held evidence. Each one carried silence turned to story. Croy took the stand like a prophet. I built the council's teeth. You wore its robes and called it peace. But his fury cracked. His voice faltered. One survivor showed a hollow. A child's final words, muffled under rubble ordered by Croy's algorithms. He broke. I did this, he said. But you let me. You called it politics, efficiency, sanity. Jax stood. And we're naming it now. The tribunal ruled no execution, no exile. Croy would serve as a living witness, inside the tribunal, annotating every future war record. His shame, weaponized for truth. The Continuance responded. Their message came in fire. 3 tribunal outposts, vaporized by dark matter mines. Hightower Station targeted, but missed. We went dark, evac protocols initiated. Every judge, every clerk, every file moved underground, into what we now call the roots. The tribunal wouldn't die, but it would change shape. Jax met me in the old hangar. This isn't a court anymore, he said. It's a resistance. I shook my head. It's still justice, but now it has armor. Outside, Continuance fleets mobilized. Not to argue, to erase. The final trial had begun. Engines roared like thunder across the void. The hidden fleet, cloaked black ships once scattered, now converged on Hightower Station's orbit. No one saw us coming. Jax stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the enemy's signature. The Continuance thinks this is a battle of fleets, he said. They don't know it's a war for souls. I activated the command console. We fight shadows with light. The silent ships flickered into coordinated formation. Not a strike force, but a shield for the Tribunal's truth. The galaxy held its breath. The war for justice was no longer a trial. It was a reckoning. Boarding pods pierced Hightower's shields, silent as death. We met them with data mines and neural scramblers. The corridors echoed with footsteps, but not soldiers. Ghosts, AI constructs of fallen judges, pre-recorded testimonies, legal codes projected like phantoms. The continuance forces hesitated, slowed by centuries of laws turned into weapons. Jex's voice echoed in the halls. Justice is not just rules, it's history living. I joined him in the tribunal chamber. The heart was secure, but an explosion rocked the lower decks. The enemy was closer than we thought. Through the smoke emerged a familiar face. Kale Croy. She held a data crystal, proof of her father's secret pardons, but her eyes were cold. "I brought you this," she said, "but I serve no tribunal. I serve the future." Jex confronted her. "You hide behind your father's sins." She smiled. "No, I reveal them. Only by tearing down can we build anew." She activated the crystal. The entire tribunal system flickered, laws rewritten midstream, allies turned enemies, the past erased. I shouted, "Kyle, stop!" But the silence that followed was deafening. Jex faced Kyle in the tribunal chamber's empty circle. Words, not weapons. "You betray everything we fought for." I free the galaxy from old chains. Their debate unfolded, broadcast live. The galaxy watched. Some cheered Kale's call for radical rebirth. Others rallied behind Jex's plea for remembered justice. Suddenly, Kale's crystal shattered, overridden by a hidden tribunal failsafe. "Justice is not erased," Jex declared. "It is carried by every voice, every story, every life." The chamber erupted, not in violence, but in chorus. Species united in shared memory, stronger for their scars. As dawn broke over Hightower Station, the tribunal was reborn, not as empire nor tribunal, but as a living council. Jex looked to the stars. "We're not perfect, but we endure." I nodded, because justice is not a destination, it's a journey. The continuance fleet retreated, but the war's shadow remained. Yet, for the first time, the galaxy glimpsed hope. Justice forged in ashes, carried forward by the many, not the few. And the last gavel fell, not with finality, but with promise. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story, or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.